3 to the highest total in this Detroit game. Is that preparation, or how much is that just execution as route running and Cousins throwing in tight windows?
I think it's a combination of all those things. I think, they brought out some things that maybe we hadn't seen from them. In some of the film study, they had a good plan for us in week 3. And, we thought we would get maybe a similar plan, or, we always know that there's a possibility that teams are going to double JJ at some point, usually on those third down passing situations. And, we felt like we had a good scheme-wise to try to get some rubs and releases and get some access where he could have a chance to get up onto that second level, where he's not, got a guy in his face and a guy over the top, or a guy doubling him from inside out, where we could move him or switch release. And then really, Kirk was lights out as far as ball placement, JJ, getting to those spots, and then Kirk putting the ball where it needed to be, and just ended up being a huge day for Justin.
The call you challenged, and they said it was like forward progress. That's why he went behind. Do you have to be conscious of that on third down, like that a guy could kind of be pushed back, even though he was?
Yeah, that was an interesting one, just because he caught it and his knee went down. If someone's hand would have just been touching him right there, that's a first down. But because he fell forward on his own, it was not a first down. So, a lot of different situations come up every week, and that was a first for me.
Wes, with the running game, I mean, what do you think you guys can do to kind of get that going, and how much will having Christian back help with that?
Christian will certainly help. I mean, it'll help in run game and pass protection. I mean, I think he's showing that he's one of the better tackles in this league as he continues to progress. But as far as the run game, I mean, usually when things don't go the way you want it, first of all, you look at your own scheme, the things you're calling, and then you go back to the technique and fundamentals. You try to tighten the plan some to where guys have real clarity on what we're trying to accomplish. You go back to, showing clips of them actually doing a lot of these concepts and doing them well. So, it's not a full revamp of the run game, but trying to narrow down a little bit as to what we feel like we've been good at, and that can attack their scheme and really hone in on the fundamentals.
Coach, with Matt Daniels, I know you guys overlapped for a year, I think, in LA, and then being back here, I'm just curious, kind of from your perspective, what he just adds to a coaching staff, to your group, from just personality, kind of his approach to the game.
Yeah, Matt brings a lot of juice to the coaching staff. He brings a lot more swag than I do, certainly, but. And he's done a phenomenal job with that group. This is, as far as my time in the league, I think this unit is more invested than maybe any. Sometimes there's guys that they're just waiting to get their shot other places, and obviously guys want to play on offense and defense, but we've got a lot of guys, core special teams guys that are really excited about going out there and really making plays to change the game, and I think they've been a big part of us being able to win 10 games in the NFL. That unit, and he's a big part of that. He's done a phenomenal job. He's got a good way of teaching the fundamentals, as well as keeping it fun for those guys, and being demanding, but also being very likable and approachable, and they've really responded.
Cook, does he have to hold the ball differently if he's going to throw on that red zone player? Is that just a matter of, looks like Ingram got beat and that guy came in pretty quick?
Yeah, that was one of those plays that we repped and we felt good about. We felt good about the scheme. We felt good about our execution as far as when we've practiced that. It's something we've had up for more than one week. It wasn't just it's something we practice, and sometimes those kind of specialty plays, they kind of have to cook a little bit in the oven before they're ready to be brought out. And we felt like we had a good look for it, and just didn't execute it the way we had hoped, and obviously ended up being a big play in the game from a negative aspect. But it's not one of those things that I would. There's two sides to it. You say, hey, we can never fumble the ball, but it is a tough spot to be in right there, where you're catching a toss and then you're ready to throw it, and someone gets beat quickly, and now the ball's getting hit out of my hands. So difficult spot to be in. Obviously, we wish we could have that call back.
Wes, when that one comes in, is that one where there's a couple of calls and Kirk's got an option to can it, or is that kind of the call the whole way?
Well, that was something where when they're playing their goal line defense, you have a pretty goal line across the league is pretty standard as far as what you're going to get from a front and man coverage. They were actually had two guys over Justin. So they actually took another guy out and were doubling Justin in all their goal line stuff. And so, that back of the end zone area was pretty clean and pretty open. We just didn't execute like we'd like.
Generally speaking, in those situations, how have you judged players when they're you're going to ask them to do something a little out of their position or out of their comfort zone? In this case, Dalvin is going to had to deal with a pass rush, basically. How do you, before you decide to, that's going to be a play in the playbook or the game plan, how you sort of judge whether a player is capable of executing in an unusual situation?
Well, sometimes, as far as the execution of the play, you see these guys throwing the ball and catching the ball, and you kind of have a sense of that, or you have a thought about hey, this is something that would be good against this scheme, and you ask the guys, and then usually they're pretty confident. Yeah. Oh yeah, I can do it, and then you try it out, and sometimes we say, oh no, we're not doing that one. But like I said, we had practiced this in multiple weeks, and we felt good about the execution in practice. It just didn't turn out as we'd hoped.
You mentioned that they showed some looks that they hadn't shown before with Jefferson. How much time do you devote each week to trying to think about how teams may approach him and different looks that you may get, and still trying to find ways to get him open and get him the ball?
I think you start with what they've shown, right? Here's the one and two, kind of 1A, 1B of kind of what they do. Maybe this is the third thing they sprinkle in. Okay, now how does that work out if they've got a double JJ program? And how does that there's times where, and several times in last game where we were able to get him in some positions where he had an opportunity to beat a double. And then there's some other times where like the throw to Hawkinson, the corner route to Hawkinson for a big play, where that was kind of part of the read. Hey, you get the double JJ's coming across the middle of the field. Well, now we know we've got a single right there with a good matchup with TJ. So you're kind of setting it up in a way that, hey, if they do take him away, then other guys are going to be hopefully running free.
When Justin Jefferson is having a day like he had this past week as the play caller, are you guys thinking about, hey, we need to keep feeding him to make sure, hey, he's moving the chains, or are you like, hey, we need to be balanced and we need to run the ball more? How do you balance that out in a game like this past Sunday?
Well, we'd like to be balanced. It's just if the game's going as it is, if you're getting some negative runs and you obviously feel like we had an advantage, at least on the back end. Obviously, with JJ, we feel like we have some sort of advantage with him. But if you feel like the best way to move the ball is to throw it, then you've got to do that. And obviously, didn't get the run game going as we wanted to, but we'd all prefer to stay balanced. And as far as who we're throwing it to, I mean, I think all other 31 teams know we're going to try to target this guy as much as we can, as long as it's within Kirk's progression, within the scheme, and we're not trying to force things unnecessarily. But he's going to be a part of the pass game, certainly.
With those negative runs, are there ever wrinkles in running plays that you can sort of tweak to maybe avoid those if those are becoming a problem in a particular game?
Well, sometimes there's a scheme issue, and we look very critically at ourselves as far as what we're calling and where. And then sometimes there's an execution error where we're working to a linebacker and he runs right through and tackles the back. And those are generally technique things. They're not anything but where my feet are placed, the angle of my pads, eyes to the second level. Those types of things where you get a run through and you should be able to shut that off. And at least if we can get hats on hats and, at the first and second level there with the linebackers, then we've got good enough backs that are going to turn out some yards. So there's certainly a combination of things, when the whole run game as a whole isn't producing like we'd want. But it starts with us putting them in a good position, make sure they have clarity on what they need to do, and then after that, it's on them to execute it.
You spent time around Mike Leach. Just how much did he mean to you in your career?
I can't tell you how good he was to me, to our staff when I was at West Texas A&M, and we're driving 100 miles to Lubbock. We were trying to be a carbon copy of the Mike Leach offense, kind of at the earlier stages of the air raid when he was, at Texas Tech leading the nation in passing just about every year. And, for him and his staff, which included Dana Holgerson, Sonny Lincoln was young. I mean, all those guys were so welcoming to us, so good to us as just a young, hungry coaches that were just trying to learn their system and interested in doing the things they were doing. They allowed us to watch practice. Coach Leach allowed me to sit in on quarterback meetings. And then, of course, being Mike Leach, I was getting more than football. What's the best jerky? He actually, Minnesota, I still remember, was one of the, Minnesota has the best jerky, he said. I do need to check on that, but the best drinking water. I mean, these things I remember from just conversations with him, and Mike's agent. I've kind of kept in touch throughout the years, just because his agent and my dad's agent, Gary O'Hagan, who's actually based out of Minnesota, have been the same for a long time. So just really an iconic character and really a national treasure in the coaching community. So really sad to see him go.